Thank you for joining us today for our Amplify AEC 2022 first conference and conversations live stream. Today we're going to be talking about all things Amplify AEC with some of our speakers that are conducting sessions this year. So I am Bethany Smith. I am Marketing and Corporate Communication Vice President at Messer Construction Company. And I'm also part of the Amplify AEC Planning Committee. This year, Amplify is focused on bringing attendees together again after our long hiatus, where we're going to create environments that are going to include a lot of hands-on activities and engagement as we also as we have our typical, or not our typical, they are not typical, but our regular type of in-person events. So I am really excited today to be joined by one of the folks that are presenting one of our M Live studio sessions. So we're going to be talking a little bit about their session, which is called Walking the Walk, Building a Socially Just Brand. So with us today, I have the lead moderator, Laura Ewan, and guest panelists, Yiselle Santos Rivera, and David Shove Brown. So their session is going to focus on unique ways that marketers and firm leaders can impact change and ensure actions are aligned with their words. They're going to talk about, how do we start and where do we begin and what's the best way to set those specific goals and measure your progress. They're also going to, the firm leaders are from various size companies, from small to large and extra large. That's not about right, right, Laura, about what I'm talking about there. Okay,
Absolutely.
So I don't want you guys though to hear the whole thing from me. Like, we've got the experts here. Let's talk to them. So, Laura, I'm going to start with you, and I was hoping you could, just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how this panel came to be and how this topic came to be.
Sure. Well, my name is Laura Ewan. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications for Hickok Cole. We're a forward-focused design practice in Washington, D.C. and Richmond, Virginia. In 2019, I began working with my colleague, who is our fellow panelist, not here with us today, Abby Brown, on helping our firm go through the process of applying for a JUST label. So JUST considers themselves a nutrition label for socially just firms. And we thought it was a good fit for our firm as a way to figure out where we're walking the walk and to kind of measure whether we were living our core values and where we had areas for improvement. So it was quite a long process, as you can imagine. There were many other things going on in 2020 and 2021 that we had to deal with, but it was also a great time for us to reevaluate and kind of look at what's going on in the world and where does our firm stand on that and how can we talk about it, but more importantly, how can we live it and what are we doing to prove our words. I like to say I'm a marketer, not a liar. And we talk about our brand as spray it, don't say it, right? So where are the actions here? And if there aren't actions, then I'm not saying it, which is why I'm really proud of what our firm's been through. So Abby and I were talking about the process and just what it meant for her as a designer and architect, what it meant for me as a marketer and kind of building the brand and really living it and being proud of it. And then we thought, well, there's got to be other firms out there that have gone through a similar process. And there are a lot of other options out there for your firm other than JUST. Like JUST really fit for us. It worked for us. But we knew that Yiselle had taken her firm through the UN Global Compact. And we knew that there was the B Corp certification out there as well. And luckily, we had a great firm, local firm, with David and Studio 3877, who had taken their firm through that process. So we represent all different sizes, like you said, all here in DC. And we thought it'd be a great discussion to learn more about what it was like for them, what they learned, how they changed. And hopefully other firms could do the same.
Awesome. Thank you. So Yiselle, if you could, what drew you to want to be a part of the panel? And then without giving too much away, what are you hoping the audience will leave with?
Sure. Well, Laura makes a compelling case for everything. So of course I had to say yes, but As she mentioned, there are many frameworks out there that support how people think about their brands and their value proposition. So I'm Yiselle Santos Rivera, of course, pronouns she and her. I always try to say that. I'm an architect and a medical planner at the global firm HKS, as we call it here, the mega firm. And I am part of our environmental social governance framework that HKS decided to engage in as part of the strategic plan. So as Laura was mentioning, there are several frameworks that exist out there that allow organizations to really view through the lens of environmental issues, social issues, and governance framework. We decided to join the UN Global Compact because it was a large framework that was also global, like we are a global firm. And we decided that we wanted to align the framework to acknowledge and move the needle in these social issues, particularly the environmental and social issues, but create a governance structure that supported that work. So what I hope people take from this conversation is that there is not a one-size-fits-all framework that firms can just tap into immediately. It needs to be a framework that aligns with your values and your strategic plan, and that it really aligns with where you see yourself as an organization to serve your community best. So for us, it was the UN Global Compact. We wanted to align with the UN Global Compact principles as well as the Sustainable Development Goals. And for me, for example, one of the things that I really enjoy that aligns with the work that I do, the values that I embody as a person is the two main SDGs that I am accountable for, which are gender equality and reduced inequities. So because I'm the director of Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion at a mega firm, I try to embody that work through the work that we do internally as a governance framework and embody that as a firm equity piece, but also how we serve our communities best. And for us, it was the UN Global Compact that we wanted to pursue.
That's great. Thank you. So David, I'm going to ask you the same question. What really drew you to be a part of this panel, aside from Laura's sparkling personality? And what are you hoping the attendees will be able to take away from that?
So the Laura thing, yes, that goes without saying. But I'm also, as a dad of a strong-willed 12-year-old daughter, I love to be around other kick-ass women and to see what other people are doing in the world to make it a better place, as a sort of example. But so when this opportunity came about and Laura reached out, I was like, absolutely, there's no question. So if you take HKS on one end of the spectrum of size, we're on the other end of the little tiny engine that could. My business partner and I formed our company 11 years ago, and when we did, we had initial discussions of what is our culture, how do we sort of put up or shut up, what are our core values, what's our mission, what's our vision, what's our values. And, we established a lot of those things just sort of, quite frankly, by the seat of our pants as we're starting the firm. And as we've grown, and now we're over 30 people, as we've grown, we've had continuing discussions of how do you evolve your culture? How do you find the people that align with your value system, whether that's new team members or consultants or contractors or clients? And how do you partner with those people and do good work with the same philosophies? And so as we rolled into about the same timeline that Laura went through, we got into this discussion of looking into B Corp certification, and we got into COVID, and we said, okay, well, yes, we're trying to keep the firm alive and people employed, but now's a great time to really dig into this. And it did the same things that it did for that Laura mentioned, in the sense of it allowed us to look at ourselves and through a pretty fine lens, look at what we were doing, and then allowed us to grow and say, what can we do better? And it quite frankly evolved from that. So my hope from the panel is to really sort of express to people that these are not, I agree completely with Yiselle, this is not a one size fits all solution for anybody. And they're all evolutionary. It's not a, you've got this certification, check off the box and move on to the next thing. It's, you've got a certification. How do you then use that certification to continue to better your environment and better what you're doing and better your culture? So I'm hoping that people walk away going, okay, yeah, maybe one of these is a great option. Maybe there isn't one. Maybe there's another thing out there to make our business a better place and do better in the world.
That's amazing. Actually, so I'm sitting here writing and I have about 7 or 8 questions I would like to ask you all, but I think really those should be saved for when I come to your session in Atlanta, because they're really about specifics about what you could do and how we could benefit, and how us as marketers and business developers, how can we support those and get that stuff started with our at our own companies. And I kind of feel like that's probably what you guys are going to talk about in July in Atlanta. Is that correct? Yes.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, so I will just go ahead and send all those questions to Laura after this to
Do my job for me.
get those on the docket. Yeah.
Outline.
So I think one of the things I want to ask you though is because obviously you were all brought together for the purposes of sharing this, and Laura told the story very well about how you all came together. Is there anything, and I'm going to ask each of you, and I'll start with David. Is there anything specific that surprised you about the journey that somebody else took that you learned, like without giving away the content of your presentation, but is there anything that really surprised you that you were like, I didn't think about that?
You mean a journey within our cohort here of presenters?
Yeah, and what you learned from them about maybe what they did or something.
I think after our initial meeting, I was physically exhausted just listening to, because they're so in depth, right? They're so, you get so far into the weeds of each practice and what you're doing. This is not a very quick sort of one and done, you're not going to just do this in a weekend and be done. It is so in depth. And so to hear what each of these firms went through was exhausting, but amazing. It was super inspiring for me to listen to the things that they had done. And quite frankly, the ability to sort of take away and go, okay, I need to reach out to them and have more one-on-one conversation of how I can better what we're doing based on what they've learned. And for me, that was really the big takeaway. It wasn't necessarily like, I got to do that. And then I got to do, there's so many awesome opportunities out there with people like this that just are so inspiring.
Mm-hmm. That's great. What about you, Yiselle?
Well, similarly, I was completely exhausted, but I did a ton of talking, so I probably exhausted all of them anyway. Well, what was, I think, really inspiring, and I don't know if shocking, was the passion and the rigor that each of us took to embrace a new framework, and that it had to really be embedded in the business of what we do. So I was thinking about it a little bit, and I was like, it's sort of a process for progress that we all go through, and it's a journey and it's learning. And what was shocking is how different the journeys feel, but the outcomes are all very much aligned. We all are looking to do the same things. We're all looking to be resilient, to really lead our industry with the pieces of the things that we're taking on to make our firms better, whichever framework it was. And I loved that in listening to the stories, I was able to take away things that resonated really specifically through that lens, like things like pay equity or B Corp, which is more holistic. And I think I could take those back and use those learnings to affect what we're doing with the UN Global Compact, which is a very different framework that we're using. So it was doubling down on David. It was super inspiring, exhausting, but I think inspiration could be and should be exhausting if it's done well.
And I'm going to totally interrupt here. I think there's one other component to this that there's a little bit of a misconception, I think, within the world of architecture and design that firms are siloed. And I think that there's so many great things that we can do working. Like, I want to get both of these folks over here to the office to talk to my team. And I think we can support each other as design firms and as folks that do marketing and then business development and all these things, that we can do a much better job of commingling and working together than sort of these siloed preconceived notions. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's good. It's a great segue to what I was about to say, because like it's such an insular process. Like you are so heads down in your own stuff, trying to go through this. Like you're looking at pay, you're looking at demographics, you're looking at culture, you're looking at benefits, you're looking at all these different things. And it can feel like, oh God, within just you are filling out you get 1 through 4 score and all these different indicators. And some things you can say, oh God, we only have a 1. And like, okay, well, you're starting there. And that's a place to be. And is that an area where we can improve? But you're so heads down in it. And then to have this call and have this conversation, and you always think everyone around you is doing more, they're doing better. You're comparing yourselves to your firms. And to hear, somebody from HKS who I respect so much and I'm so inspired by, be like, oh, we're just getting started. This is the stuff we're all figuring it out. Like we're all, have things to learn, and we all have want to be doing better, and we all have a place we have to start somewhere. And I think to me, that was the most shocking part, was like, okay, we're all just starting here and we all have so far to go. But I love that this is a journey that our industry is taking. And I'm excited to be a part of this conversation with them. So.
Well, I think, if people weren't convinced before that they would get anything out of your session just by the name of it, clearly what the three of you just said is what we can all expect by coming to your session in Atlanta in July. Just being able to hear your stories and your journeys and being able to take that, to take that with you. It sounds like you are really going to be able to help everybody amplify their approach to ESG or CSR or whatever you want to call it, whatever that journey is for your firm. So I'm certainly excited about that. So I love talking to you guys, so I want to keep talking to you, but I'm really nervous that I'm going to start asking you things that you're going to be like, hey, well, we'll tell you in July. So I actually want to get to know the three of you a little bit better, and just where you are in your positions in your firms and how you got there, and what your career journey's been like. So Yiselle, I'm going to ask you to start and just tell us a little bit about you and what got you interested in architecture and the build industry, and then maybe what brought you then to your focus with DE&I and ESG.
Sure. So we'll be here an hour, so I'll try to shorten it.
They will cut us off. I'm just saying.
I know they will, and everybody else has to speak. So I knew that I loved architecture when I was very, very young. I would destroy my parents' furniture, creating castles for my brother. They always assumed that I was going to become an architect, but I actually chose genetics. And I think now that of course, hindsight 2020, it's all about the building blocks of what connects us, what puts us together. And I hated working in a lab. And because I hated working in a lab, my geology professor encouraged me to pursue architecture, to change the spaces that I hated. So I could have been a geneticist if architects would have designed our labs much better. So I ended up in architecture. And as I was coursing through architecture in the profession, at the time I looked up and I didn't see anybody that looked like me. So the avenue that I took to engage with this conversation was through associations like the AIA and NOMA. And I got very empowered and inspired by the thought of building my village consistently through these networks, like with Laura and now with David. I loved the idea that even outside of my organization, I could continue to build the villages that affect the communities that I serve in many different ways. And when HKS took on the journey of becoming or joining the UN Global Compact and creating an ESG framework to do so, they asked me if I wanted to take on this role. And I was a little bit hesitant to take on the role because I was doing medical planning and architecture, and I was really good at that. And I thought, what does it look like to transition to a corporate role to do this at a global firm? And I went from Puerto Rico to DC. I was very much biased in my bubble, and I didn't know what that would look like. But I loved the opportunity to create platforms for other people to succeed and thrive. I was doing that with AIA, with committees and Wheeled and events. And in my naive mind at the time, I thought, well, I'm going to blend these two together. Finally, I'm going to be able to do the things that I do externally with associations, internally with the firm, connect with clients in a different way, connect with my peers in a different way, and serve the community in a different way. Of course, that's my thought pre-pandemic, pre-social reckoning and the murder of George Floyd, which has been quite an incredible journey to see how far the industry has moved and continues to move as we try to become more socially just, more socially aware, and really value people at the core of what we do. And I think architecture is about people. So I think that I'm doing exactly what I have always wanted to do and would never have imagined that would have existed in our profession. So that's where I am today.
That's a great story. Thank you so much. David, love to hear your story too.
So I'll jump ahead to college. So if anybody comes to
I thought we were skipping college. We thought we were going to.
No, yeah, I'm gonna skip my side hustle in college. We don't want to talk about that.
Okay.
But anybody that comes to the presentation in Atlanta can ask me how I got into architecture school, which is a funny story. How I made that decision in high school, quite funny. So you'll have to ask that question live. I will not do interpretive dance. So I got to architecture school. I had no relatives that were architects or anything like that. I didn't really totally know what it was, and found a whole bunch of weirdos just like me. And I realized that these personalities were dynamic and unique, and everybody just brought something different to the table. And so, fast forward to work for some firms. I actually was in academia for half a dozen years. I was teaching in the States. I was teaching abroad. Came back, and my business partner, who was my best friend from college, we sort of had this discussion of how do we get all these really awesome, talented people to work together? And then how do you keep them working together? How do you keep them inspired? How do you keep them excited? How do we then find the next ring of cool people and interesting people and dynamic people that fit into what you're trying to do? And so for us, it's been an evolution of culture that we spend a lot of time working on. So for me, starting a practice and growing a practice has been exciting. It's been friggin' exhausting. It's been wonderful. It's been terrifying. I can spend an hour just coming up with adjectives for it. But for me as a part of this, for me, the most exciting thing is really working with this team that I have of great people within the office and outside the office. And so by putting these things in place and expanding, what we believe for diversity, for inclusion, and going on those outer rings, it is awesome. It's absolutely nothing that you're taught in architecture school, and it's exciting to be living it and learning it and breathing it and all of those things all at once. So yeah, I skipped over the college thing.
That's all right. That's for when we're in Atlanta after you guys have given yours and we're giving your presentation and we're all sitting at the bar together. Not a problem.
Laura promised me I could bring a cocktail to the presentation.
Hey.
Laura, you're a marketer, not a liar.
That's true.
I did. I loved hearing that. I'm a marketer, not a liar. I agree. So Laura, let's hit on your story real quick.
I'll go real fast. I'll also skip my college years, which were in Georgia at the University of Georgia. So I have not been back there in a very long time, and I'm excited to revisit the Atlanta area at Amplify. So that should be really fun. I fell into this like most marketers. My dad actually was an architect, moved out of the industry at a young age, but stayed in like a project management role. So there's a fun connection there. But as a marketer, I've just always leaned into more brand and culture type roles. And whether that was my job or not, I found myself doing that job, and therefore, like Yiselle, made that my job. And I love that part of it the most. I think, you're building brands. I love the spray it, don't say it. And that's where I really have the most fun. Of course, did my time as a marketing coordinator, worked at a global firm, and am now back at a firm that's about 100 people. And I really love this sweet spot because you get to know everybody. You get to talk to them and have personal relationships with them, and really make their values, their personalities a part of who this whole firm is, and how, as a marketer, I talk about this whole firm and help them talk about the firm in a way that resonates with them. And if it resonates with them, then it'll resonate with our clients and with our partners, and so on and so forth. So this has been a big part of that, and I'm really proud of the efforts that we did, and we'll see what comes next. That's my short story.
No, I love it. And, you guys all have such great diverse backgrounds, and what brought you to this screen in front of me today. So I appreciate hearing your stories. But I will say, guys, we are we're just about out of time. So, I'm going to do one last thing. I'm going to put you on the spot. I didn't tell you I was going to do this. But what is one word to describe how you hope people feel when they walk out of your session? And you cannot use the word inspired, because we've already get back. No, we already know they're going to be inspired. So you have to pick a different word. I will call on you if nobody. Laura, you can go first.
Yeah, I'll say I had actionable. I think that we're going to give you real things that you can do, and show you real examples of real things that we did. So I hope that you have at least one thing that you can go back and say, we can actually do this thing, and it is a step in the right direction.
Awesome. Yiselle?
This is not a word, but I'll blame Spanish as my first language. Thought provoked? I don't know. That's not a thing.
It's a hyphenated word. We'll use it. Yeah.
Yes. So I hope that people take what we shared, our journeys, our successes, and our challenges, and are sort of moved by what we're trying to do, and that they feel like they can join in whichever way fits for them, and continue on the momentum that the world is having right now.
I love that. David?
I actually wanted to sort of play on that, and I want my word to be somewhere between energized and rejuvenated. I want people to, I think the last couple of years on every scale they've deflated people. They've sort of made, and I think to be surrounded by these folks that are doing amazing things on many, many levels, just is so reaffirming and reassuring that there are still amazing human beings in this world trying to make it a better place. That I think I want people to walk out going, hell yeah, there are good folks here, and I want to be a part of it.
Well, if I could sum up what you guys all said in one word, I would say that it was amplified. I think that's what I heard. I heard you
went full circle.
It totally did. And I love that so much. So thank you guys all for being here today and sharing your thoughts and insights into our audience. I am so happy that you guys were here. I heard we might break the internet today, so hopefully everyone's still there. If you haven't yet, please be sure to register for Amplify AEC. It is taking place July 18th through the 20th this summer in Atlanta, Georgia, in person. We're going to see each other. There's going to be people. They'll be hugging. It may get weird. I don't care. We haven't had this in 3 years, and I'm so excited to see everybody. And then when you're there, make sure that you attend this awesome session, Walking the Walk, Building a Socially Just Brand. This session does take place on Tuesday, the 19th, so the second day of conference. So, register, do yourself a favor, do it now, get in there, get into the website, which is amplifyaec.org. You can see everything that's going on in there. And of course, you can get all the details and you can register. So you really want to pump it up to 11 this summer, then you need to register for Amplify AEC. And I will see all of you in Atlanta this July. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know what happens.